on the issue of death. You've mentioned it time and time again during this conversation. How do you think we can resolve this? Do you think we need a global scholars union, or do you think, or how do you think we can solve it?
I don't have an exact answer.
Yeah.
I do think that the more that the scientific community comes together to define death,
Yeah.
the more that they become unified and take that to the scholars, then the better. But it is quite nuanced, because you will find even where the scholars will consider the definition of death or the ruling of death in certain chapters of fiqh, such as with regards to capital punishment, they will accept certain standards and definitions, whereas they might not when it comes to slaughter. And why? Because there are major fundamental differences.
Yeah.
It's not that they're contradicting themselves, but because the spirit of when you're talking about capital punishment is to protect human life.
Yeah.
Or inheritance, where we won't necessarily rule that that person is dead, because now that means that his wife is separated from him, she can get remarried, the children can inherit. They're much more sensitive issues. Whereas in slaughter, for example, you have conflicting defaults. You have the default is that meat is not allowed unless known otherwise. But at the same time, you have that the meat is still considered wealth, and it is not allowed to allow wealth to just go to waste without a good reason. However, again, where there, when the scientific community can come in harmony more with regards to this issue, that will definitely help. And also, we don't necessarily need to say specifically that it's the brain or the heart. Will, if we just widen a little bit, as the scholars have done, where we're more concerned with the legal ruling. So let's say we can't fully decide if it's the brain or the heart, or we can't even decide if the animal's fully dead. But does it have signs that it's dying? And that's really what's more important. And that's what you find the scholars mention, what's called haraka madbuha. When you have an animal, when you slaughter it, and the natural reflexes and the kicking, for the majority of scholars, they would consider that to be a dead animal. They acknowledge that it's not fully dead yet, but that it's in the ruling of being dead. Now we can take that and say, okay, that if we have an animal that is captive bolt stunned, for example, cattle, and it has that violent reaction, or it's completely dead, or it doesn't react, or it's completely brain dead, but the heart is still beating, that will then be ruled, and it has all the signs of either a slaughtered animal or a dead animal, as per scientific, when it's research, when an animal is actually stunned properly. Then we can say the vast majority of scholars would rule that animal as dead, and Islamic slaughter would not benefit it, even if the heart is beating. Just as when you slaughter an animal without any stun, the heart is still beating, the heart is still pumping.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it's considered slaughtered. So in this case, yes, there actually is more room for the scholars to come to agreement. If we don't look at it as black and white, what's considered dead, or what is absolutely reality dead and alive. No, what's in the ruling of life and death as well.